about 3 seconds before I jump over it. Hi, everybody in the chat room who's going to be joining us in a couple seconds. We're about to be here. 10 seconds, that's what I said. And it's John and Million, and poof, where does he appear? He's got to pop up. Nope. There he is. Welcome to the show. I'd like to say, first of all, that yes, indeed, we are live. This is not a best of, although it just might be. I mean, I'm open to the possibility that a show, even live, could be a best of. You know what I mean, Johnny Million?
Oh, there you go.
And the other thing I would like to say, right out of the gate, is I am incredibly thankful that you're my buddy, that you're my pal, that you're my friend. I could not be happier that
you're talking to me.
I am. There's no one else in the room. And I've already said this to my family repeatedly over the weekend. It's been quite lovely in that regard. But in all honesty, my brother, I was thinking recently, because we reminisced a couple weeks ago about, I guess it would be, it would be before Johnny Million. I was about to do the letters, but it seemed very weird. As a time period where there was, I hadn't really gotten a chance to hang out with you since high school for about a decade and change. Right. Which sounds like a time in the morning or something, but overall. But I will say that it's like I've been thinking about that a lot more lately. And so I just flatly wanted to just say, ain't it wonderful? And thanks so much for being a part of the show. I'm very grateful to you for being with us all the time. And I'm very grateful that our dear friend Philip Bittner is going to be joining the two of us in a little bit on the show. He's in Kiev right now, where the Scorpions are singing the city anthem.
Wow.
Blackout. I'm kidding. Never mind. Anyways, too obscure a reference this early in the morning. And then on top of that, I would also
song,
I do too, even though it sounds like something really untoward if you sing it wrong.
But you should know that we actually talked about House Sparks at our Thanksgiving table.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, one of my mother-in-law's friends is a big fan.
Aw, that's lovely.
Yeah, and she always brings it up to my mother-in-law, who frequently forgets to listen.
To bring it up, she just...
Yeah. Well, what's funny, though, is that they say, I just get so exhausted listening to him. He just goes and goes. And I'm like, yeah.
Imagine it was like
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. He's always been kind of exhausting.
That's exactly. I'd like to, if I could be grateful for something else, I would add that to the list, that I could just wear people down to the nub just by talking. Down. That's right. Nobody can escape that. And by the way, my energy and my optimism can outrun anybody. I will throw down.
I agree.
On behalf of the good people of Earth and the people that love them. Ain't nobody slowing me down. No way. I got news for you.
Nobody's gonna break your stride.
No. Nobody gonna slow me down. Oh no. I've got to keep on moving, and we will eventually. We'll eventually, I promise, get to an actual story this morning, because there has been a bunch of news. But it is a holiday weekend, so I feel like we can cruise into it.
Yeah.
The other thing I would like to say is I am increasingly excited that Devin and everybody at the Chicago station are part of our lives as well, because they've been part of this whole accidental reunion that they had no intention of playing such a part in this, did they? No, they did not.
No, they had no idea.
And yet, ta-da! So I'm moving you around in the camera because I just can. And so much love to them and our dear friend Lady B. If she's in the building or listening anywhere nearby, we love her as well. I am a bit overwhelmed with gratitude lately, not just because we smoked the Republicans in the midterms, but for redistricting, they wouldn't have gained any ground at all, and they know it. They know it's and it's given them the rumbly tumblies like you would not believe.
No, they're
And
looking around trying to find other voter laws that they can change.
let me tell you something. Yesterday, I managed to squeak out a live stream, even though I'm on vacation. And yes, exactly. That was the quality of broadcasting that I was doing. And I will say that, first of all, yeah, we covered Kanye's weird debriefing thing where he met with Trump and Trump started yelling at him.
No, this just happened?
Oh, yesterday, yeah, or the day before yesterday. It was the one where he was very excited that Trump likes Nick Fuentes, an unabashed anti-Semite and racist who brags about it. Right. So, and Kanye and Fuentes get along, oddly enough, because the enemy of my enemy is my friend, apparently, and they both don't like what some have referred to as the Juice Crew, the J Crew. Yes, the Triple OS crowd, and never mind. Like, by the way, do not even entertain for a second that either of them will matter. There may be some like people who listen and hang on their every word that want these two people to somehow direct them. They're not going anywhere. It's the one thing that Trump has said that made some sense, human to human in interpersonal conversation, is apparently that he yelled at Kanye 2 days ago or whenever they met together and said, if you run for president, you're going to lose. And because apparently Kanye asked Trump to be his vice president.
Yes.
Come on. It just gets better all the time.
Though.
It's so sweet. It's like ego on ego crime. It's hilarious. And I would like to say for the record,
he's doing him a favor. Like, I know, I'll ask that little guy to be my VP.
Yeah, buddy, let me help you out there. It's just, and again, the fact that he did it on the same kind of unabashed, psychotic ego level that Trump speaks at, like it's like two foreigners finding themselves in a strange land where neither of them speak the language, and they're like, thank God, a fellow countryman, and that person is just as awful as they are. Like they were better off talking to people who didn't understand what they were saying. And on top of it, please, can we just can we give thanks? Every segment this week will be about giving thanks for the little things in life. Like that Trump and Kanye were yelling at each other, and that Trump called Kim Kardashian a rather untoward word for women at Kanye, thinking that Kanye would like to hear it because it's his ex. Meanwhile, he apparently did not, because he's only got one, and he, for as nutty as he is, apparently helped raise his kids at least a little bit, wants to be engaged with them, unlike, Trump, who, like, hands off, like, the mother is like a milking machine in a dairy factory, and the babies are just to be raised in cattle pens until they're old enough to be employees.
Yeah.
But on top of that, guess who wants to run against Ronna McDaniels for chair of the RNC? Guess who? Just think, dig deep. Don't think normal like the actual people in Congress. Think of the most absurd Trumpian crowd hanger-on barnacle idiot you can come up with.
Oh, Mike Pillow?
Ding, ding, ding. It's you. What do we have for him, Johnny? Oh, you are Johnny. Yeah, Mike Pillow
He wants to run for head of the RNC?
Yes, and by the way, the Speaker of the House. He also thinks, oh God, by the way, do you understand how sweet this is? Well, we're gonna have to take a break in a second, but you have to understand how sweet just watching the ego of these guys play out. Mike Pillow said he's, and I quote, 93% sure he's going to run for head of the RNC. By Monday, he'll be 100%. And wait for it. He asked people. Let me get my
calculator.
Yes, he asked people to chime in and say, "Do you want me to run?" And he gave out a special email address for them to contact him. and say, well, yes, on the air, what they would like him to do. Guess what the email address is? Mike Lindell, RNC at frankspeech.com. He already gave himself the name Mike Lindell RNC, like he runs or he's not part of the RNC. He's not actually in the RNC insofar as I know, other than he donated at some point. He's not in any, I don't know, any structural level anywhere. And he gave himself the email address already. Oh God. Look, there are a lot of things that are shocking and sad, not the least of which, by the way, we found out right as I came on the air today that Irene Cara has passed away. They have, who sang Fame.
What a feeling, yes. Irene Cara?
Yes, that one. Oh. Very sad. She passed away in Florida. They're not saying what the cause of death is or whatever. Doesn't seem like prolonged illness. Doesn't matter. Bless her heart. She was, I have to say that song still gives me goosebumps. Like every time I hear it, and it was just the kind of anthems that people are too ironic to craft these days. They don't have.
It's an absolute touchstone.
Absolutely, and so her voice is timeless because of that, and it's amazing. She was on the Electric Company. With Morgan Freeman.
Rita Moreno?
And that girl? Yeah. She was, Irene Cara was. She was one of the kids.
Yeah. No, with Rita Moreno.
Yeah, that's right.
She's one of the children? That's wonderful.
Yes, right. So it's always nice to, to recognize that not only does she had the kind of career where that's an impactful song that will just hang forever. It doesn't matter when you hear it. There's a lot of songs, especially, and she had a great catalog, but that song in particular is oddly, even though it is very almost period, like in production style, like it sounds like the time, and yet it's timeless. How there are just some songs that supersede all the everything else in that period sounds dated.
Right. It's very dated, but it holds up. Like you can pinpoint the moment in time it was created.
And it's like More Than a Feeling by Boston has the same kind of a thing. There's certain songs where I know when it was recorded, but it wouldn't matter. If you recorded it today, you would still want it to sound like that. The same thing is true. So, beautiful singing voice, by all accounts, a wonderful person, and sad that she passed. It's just, so again, thankful for full lives lived. And again, none of us escapes that date, but very few people get to leave behind a legacy that will inspire people, and that's really a wonderful thing. As somebody who personally felt that song in my bones when I got in my car and drove to LA, there were a bunch of songs that that it spurred an entire generation to go for it, and that was a big part of her legacy. So just saying that, we got to go to break, but I wanted to get that in before we did. And more thankful things when we come back. It's the Hellsparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million. Philip Ittner will be joining us in the second hour. We'll be back right after this. It's just, and some of it is, some people have sort of a timeless nature to who they are, where you're like, oh my God, I forgot they're old now.
Yeah.
Or older.
That's weird.
Yeah. Let's see.
Carl Alessi just said it's quite a show when you can segue from Michael Lindell to Irene Cara.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And without having to do one of those weird turns that they do on morning news where they're like, and on another note, tacos are big this season. It's wonderful. And, I like the crunchy ones. Some people like the soft tacos. I've never understood that. And a child is missing. When they do that.
And a flashy note.
Yeah.
Like you just trying to find a way to force the word flash in.
Right. Thank you.
There you go.
Hold on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're coming back in a couple of seconds. Oh, there's... Coming back in a second. Hi, chat room, by the way. Hal has a... Yeah. Oh, 18 seconds? Excellent.
Thank you.
All right.
And thank you, Lisa Mia Moore, for the super chat.
Yes, it does. Time ticking away. Sorry.
Jesse Tesseract.
Mm-hmm.
Love you right back.
And I think we're back. That was a quick... Oh, no, we go. There we go. It hurts. Well, welcome back. I have to say that little one stinger sounds like a Kanye stolen riff to me. That it sounds like something he'd rap something bizarrely egotistical and strange and yet artificially Christian over it. This is how weird the week is. I'm going to read you the title of an article from Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg. This isn't something on MSNBC or on financial or Raw Story or something like that. Trump dines at Mar-a-Lago with rapper Ye and a white supremacist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how Trump ended his week.
Wow.
Ex-president says he didn't know people that Kanye West brought with him. Nick Fuentes is known for white nationalism and anti-Semitism. He's not known for it. He brags about it, kids. His clips, I have to say, that like on my regular live stream, I cover a lot of weird people. I cover a good, decent amount of awful. And interestingly enough, probably the person I have the hardest time covering on my channel for the sort of virulent awfulness of what they say, where I have to like weed out some clips because I'm like, this might get me a strike.
Yeah.
Is Tucker Carlson.
Shut up.
Yeah, that of all the things that are said, the most unabashed in his awful oftentimes is Tucker Carlson. And it's ironic because he's on Fox. He's got the biggest reach. There are small YouTubers and other people who are in line with him that wouldn't dare say the things that Tucker Carlson says online because they get kicked off, right? Then there's what I would call the BitChute crowd. They hang around near the butt knuckle of Rumble as well, but mostly they're on the BitChute is the Craigslist of YouTubes, and it's one of these places where it borders on just like dark web postings, where you just find like banned documentaries about the Clinton death list or whatever, that kind of stuff, and Fuentes has a streaming show that he does on there, and there are clips on there where I'm like, I would address some of this stuff, but he can't go 4 sentences without saying something so awful that it's infuriatingly disgusting, but also he's preaching to a particular choir. There's some people where they have a reach. And so it's important to people, I think, through my show, that people know these people exist. They know where their uncle heard it first or where their cousin heard what's being said. You know what I mean? So some of these things launch through, these, Alex Jones or Russell Brand or some of these folks. And you're like, oh, that's where they heard it from. Or that's where it originated and they've heard it through Fox News because by the time it reaches Fox and Friends, it's been repeated in a loop through the right wing.
Horrible, tragic game of telephone.
Yeah, exactly. Where, by the way, they've got someone taking notes because the alignment between what's being said and what's being broadcast is amazingly sharp. I will say on the left or center left or whatever you want to call the sort of liberal and progressive worlds, there's a lot more fluidity. Because people are emotional in their reactions to things. So you'll see a lot of police shooting stories where the details will outrun the narrative. Or the narrative will outrun the details for a while. And then people go, oh, that's not actually what happened. And so there's kind of a mix there. The Republicans is the exact opposite. They decide what they're going to craft about saying this, whatever it is. And then they'll only find facts that back that up. And then they they sidecar them, and it follows them all the way up the chain. So they're all referencing the same video or same article or same study to a person, whereas there's a lot more fluidity in the rest of media and everybody else. So this former President Donald Trump dined this week at Mar-a-Lago Resort with Kanye West. I'm not calling him Ye or Yee because it's just
it's weird.
It's goofy. It's like I don't call you by a nickname unless I know you. That sounds like a nickname, so I'm just going to refer to you by your full name.
Nickname over and over is so strange.
Oh my God! Especially if you change it all the time, like the whole like Puff Daddy, P Diddy, Padiddle. Pusillanimous, whatever the whole. At a certain point, you're like, simmer down, dude. It just what do I? A proper name is what I'm supposed to call you with some consistency. This gets dangerously close to making up your own pronouns. And considering these people apparently hate that. Let's see. Karen Giorno, a former senior advisor to Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, confirmed that she had dinner on Tuesday with Trump, Nick Fuentes, Kanye West, and an additional person she didn't know also attended. She had dinner with someone, and at the end of dinner, she didn't know who they were. Like that. If you want to talk more about how
of just ignoring somebody,
well, you got to understand who she's dining with. She's eating with Trump and Kanye West and Nick Fuentes. Do you think any of those guys care about the names of anybody else at the table except themselves? No. Oh my God! It was like, all I can picture is the Skeksis when they're just like eating bugs and eyeballs and stuff around the table. Trial by stone, right? By the way, Brad in our chat room is saying, please call him Brad Cougar Mellencamp from now on. So I agree. I have to say, I like John Cougar as a name. And then when he went to John Cougar Mellencamp, I was cool, but it was like, it just felt like one of these, like, think of me as an artist. You're like, we already do, silly. I don't care if that's not your real name. Paul Stanley's real name is Stanley Eisen. Gene Simmons' real name is Chaim Vitz. And like, get out of here. Just stick with it. We're cool.
Yeah, people change their names.
Yeah, it's okay. I love the fact that she didn't know who the other person at dinner was. And by the way, that's either true, and she didn't even get who this person was, or they're more awful than Nick Fuentes, and she doesn't dare say it out loud. That's an honest possibility that the other person there was like, look, you can say I had lunch with Nick Fuentes, but don't mention this person. You know what I mean? Like, it is very possible. So Trump said that Kanye West asked for his advice concerning some of his difficulties, in particular having to do with his business. What difficulties? He got kicked to the curb for being anti-Semitic. It's not like he misplaced a decimal point in a pile of zeros. Good Lord. Yeah. We also discussed, to a lesser extent, politics. I guess that's the part where Kanye West suggested he be his VP, where I told him he should definitely not run for president. Any voters you may have, he goes, any voters you may have should vote for Trump. Anyway, we got along great. He expressed no anti-Semitism.
Oh, nice. Isn't that sweet?
It didn't come
up. I
up.
hope people walk away from dinner with me with that same vibe.
Yeah. How was your dinner with Johnny? Well, it's great. We went to this great little restaurant, this bistro that his friend picked out, and we sat there and stuff. And he at no point did he stab anyone with a fork or blurt out any racial epithets in the middle of the restaurant.
I think he may not hate Jews at all.
Yeah, right. How do you? That has to make the list. That's a bad lunch. If you have to make the list, if you have to bring that up, oof. All right, we got to take a break. It's the House Parks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching or viewing us on the interwebs. You can go to infotainmentwars.com and subscribe there. Help us to get to 45,000 subscribers. We're almost there, and I would like to bypass 45 and go straight to 46. I would like to stay, at 45 as little time as possible for obvious reasons. We'll be back. I can't. We got along great. He expressed no anti-Semitism.
I don't get it.
And then he goes, I also didn't know Nick Fuentes. You had lunch with him, dummy. Here's a good idea. Vet who you're having lunch with as a former president, just in case they happen to be like the spearhead of the biggest anti-Jewish movement in the country right now. I got news for you. There is no point where I'm sitting down at a dinner table at my own place or at a place that I'm getting together with friends and somebody shows up and I don't know that somebody's like, oh, by the way, you know that guy? Yeah. Big Hitler fan. You know what I mean? Like that's never happened. And I don't have a vetting staff because I'm a former president running those people off. So the only way they got there is if he did know full well. And by the way, according to Kanye West, they got along great and he liked him and he's a big fan of his. So so somebody's lying. And it could be either one because they're both morons. I think who was it? Sheet Pants in our chat room says Trump knows. I agree. Jesus. Fuentes is well known.
Stereophonics mom is asking, are you purposely ignoring that Trump social tweet? I don't know what she's talking about.
Okay, thanks. I don't know which one you're referring to, so no, I am not purposefully ignoring one. I was just reading from one, actually. I understand.
I love this. So many buttons.
I just picture him with both his hands bandaged because something else happened, and he has to operate the board with another appendage. That's all you got left. It's like the post fireworks show on 4th of July. I'm not talking until I know we're back. Not at all.
Don't you talk.
Not saying a word. Excellent. By the way, I would like to say for the record, Johnny Million, that at no time, in case anybody ever, even thinks this, have I ever had dinner with you and you brought up you brought some person with you that later turned out to be a massive anti-Semite. I just want to say that.
Yes.
In case just to clarify. As a matter of fact,
so far that is true.
I'm trying to think if anybody that I've ever hung out with you with that you introduced me to is a closet or overt awful anything. And I'm proud to say I can't think of a single thing. You know what I mean? Some of them, I think one person actually admitted to liking cheesecake in front of me, and another person toyed with the idea that circus peanuts are actually meant for human consumption. But I think that's the worst of it. And by the way, had I known that ahead of the meal, for my own image and my standing in the community, I probably would not have sat down at the table to start with. I'm just saying you have to have standards.
Just because of circus peanuts? Come on.
Ugh, don't even.
Never understood those. I have a vivid memory as a child, like they were always like on the bottom shelf in the candy aisle. I just remember going up and pinching them when I was a kid. I didn't like them, but I was like, I think they're soft. Yep.
Yep. And, I have to admit, I was not a fan of Peeps for a long time until I roasted them. Because if you roast a marshmallow that is caked in sugar, it's caramelized. And a caramelized roasted marshmallow is spectacular. Peeps were designed to be roasted. I stand by that to this day. Cheesecake
is get the advantage of it looks like you're burning a little bird.
That's right. Yes, that there is that little bit of you have that moment of a teenage Jeffrey Dahmer. You can pruriently be awful, I suppose. Thanks for bringing that up, buddy.
Again.
By the way, I don't know if you know this, but Trump announced that he's running for president, and it's amazing how no one cares.
No, or like if they're in the circle of people who are supposed to care, they're poo-pooing it.
Oh, yeah. The evangelicals, a group of 6 megachurch pastors, Obviously not the big dumb ones we hear about all the time, but the ones that actually have big functioning churches that nobody hears about. And partly the reason why you don't hear about them is because they don't tend to say we got to burn these books and burn the people who wrote them stuff. So they don't tend to make the news. But they have a big influence in the evangelical world and amongst a lot of these folks. And a gaggle of them somebody's asking me about angel food and sponge cake. I'm totally fine with those. But I don't eat them, but I don't have any, I'm not averse to the, But so one of the big talking points was, and next week on Twitter is going to be a very big deal, apparently, because according Elon Musk is going to give a blanket amnesty to people who were permanently banned from Twitter at some point, which, by the way, includes the Nick Fuentes folks of the world, people who have been kicked off for blatant racism, anti-Semitism, calling for violence. Like, how one of the complaints that you hear on the right all the time is that the mullahs of Iran have a Twitter account, but I can't, right? This person can't. Well, interestingly enough, I don't know how they managed to do it, but as awful as the mullahs of Iran are, and they are awful, they managed to be able to speak within the terms of service of Twitter, right? They manage somehow to limit what they say in social media to the stuff you're allowed to say.
Amazing.
Dennis, I will get to that. Brings up something about demand destruction in diesel. I think you're absolutely right. We'll talk about that in a bit because I have an oil price thing that I want to bring up. But one of the things about Twitter is that if you have a vocabulary that doesn't include some of the worst language that humans use amongst each other, you can talk about anything. You just can't use those particular words to do it because they're particularly awful. If you're there is a dude, and I'm not going to mention who he is on YouTube, but is all into racial superiority specific to a group of people. Specifically people of Germanic roots. Dude constantly, he's British, but he's got German family. That's where he comes from. He lives in England, got a British accent. And he talks all the time about different racial groups and their diminished intellectual capacity because of genetics and stuff. All the stuff that Nick Fuentes would get kicked off for. But he does it in a way that linguistically would never trigger an algorithm. He doesn't use any of the buzzwords. He doesn't use any of the standard fare references from, the bell curve or, racist IQ test from a long time ago. He's very particular and the language is nearly boring, but he has a huge amount of views and he gets around the algorithm simply because he doesn't use obvious rubber mallet, awful language. Right?
Yeah.
And that's true on Twitter too. There's a lot of accounts, and I personally don't reshare them when I find them because that they get boosted and they stay. They'll never get kicked off because they know how to not violate the terms of service stuff. So bringing attention to them will only boost them. Other people, there's a certain point where you can boost them up and you go, look at this person. What they said should have been, it might have slipped by the censors or slipped by the terms of service folks. And they're using specifically violent language. They're using racial epithets. They're doing that stuff, but they don't get kicked off just because they were operating below the radar. And then you draw attention to them and they get kicked off because they're violating the terms of service, right? Just nobody saw it. Or there are other people who aren't violating the terms of service. They're just saying all this stuff in a way that allows them to get around it, right? And so drawing attention to those folks doesn't help because they will never violate the terms of service. And the only way you can deal with those folks is to ignore and mute, really. So that's just part of it. So, but Musk this week apparently is going to let people who've been, been kicked off permanently back on. A general amnesty is saying, which means if you were kicked off because you posted stuff because you were vaccine hesitant and somebody overreacted and thought you were a vaccine denier, you'll get back on. But at the same time, if you were insisting that ivermectin is a cure-all and that people, that Trump was right about injecting bleach in your lungs, or you're one of these people who talked somebody into eating fish tank cleaner to try and cure themselves of COVID, and you're still convinced that's the best way to handle it, you'll be welcome back on to the network as well. And if you're the Nick Fuentes of the world, arguably same thing. No, Vinna, it's not that person. It's an unknown person. I honestly, if I brought somebody in the chat room was asking me if it was a certain British person who got kicked off, it is not that person. That person will be welcome back on. The person I'm talking about has never been kicked off, and there's a bunch of those folks, and they never will because they get around it. So, but Musk is going to do this. Also, Musk talked about last week bringing Trump back. You know, he opened Trump's account back up and verified it and left it open again. Now, the hilarious part about that is it dropped traffic for about 4 days on Truth Social. Like the traffic on there cadavered. And if you want to destroy Truth Social, all Trump has to do is post on Twitter once. Because there's no reason to hang out in that cul-de-sac of crap at Truth Social. Yeah, basically, if you can play in a bigger sandbox. And since it's basically like trolls can't troll each other. And they really do get a feeling for how, I mean, that whole group, the Truth Social crowd, the people who are really there, it's a group of trolls. That's how they found Trump. They like his ego. They like how he crap talks people without caring. And so hey,
they're going to be a billionaire someday too, so they may as well support this billionaire.
Totally right. Who's totally a real billionaire. And the thing is though, it's no fun. You can't troll each other. Right? They're all on the same team. It's boring, right? It's all just it's just a cheerleader site for Trump. That's basically all it's for. Yeah. So Musk, reigniting the Trump account, if he says anything and those people go, oh, he's going to also, whatever he puts on Truth Social, he's also going to put on Twitter. Well, I can be on Twitter and own the libs and stuff at the same time. That's where they're going. They're heading to Twitter. That's what's going to, and Musk knows this. He can't not know it. And so anybody who put money into, the Trump media group is going to lose their shirt. I mean, they've already lost, but they're going to, it'll go to pennies on the dollar. Seriously. And then following it up, Musk announces that he would back DeSantis for president if he makes a run in 2024. And he called, wait for it. He said he would back somebody like DeSantis who's sensible and centrist.
Oh.
Right. Because he's a lunatic who, smokes more pot than the van in Fast Times at Richmond High. Wow. And his logic centers are being fried these days. It's obvious. He said Friday night that he would support Ron DeSantis if he ran for president. Musk, in a series of Twitter exchanges, elaborated somewhat on his political views, saying, my preference for 2024 is someone sensible and centrist. I had hoped that would be the case for the Biden administration, but have been disappointed so far. And by the way, his dad made all of his money. Musk's dad made all of his money in apartheid South Africa. And, we're literally talking about funds made off of blood diamonds. So the idea that this guy can talk about what's sensible and centrist is hilarious.
Yeah.
He called himself a significant supporter of the Obama-Biden presidency and reluctantly voted for Biden over Trump. And by the way, if you reluctantly voted for Biden over Trump, I don't care. You did. Yeah. And the idea that he's not going to vote for Trump, he'll if he's excitedly voting for DeSantis over Trump, he's just playing with words at this point. And now it's about taxes. Of course, Elon Musk is upset by the Biden administration because the Biden administration is the first ever to put in a base 15% tax on multi-billion-dollar companies. Also, for the record, the Obama-Biden administration is the only reason you know Elon Musk's name more than say, Peter Thiel or somebody, because it is only because of the structure of the Obama bailouts that rescued the economy that Tesla exists at all. The same thing is true of SpaceX. Major government contracts, almost none of the money made in in Elon Musk's wealth is made wholly in the private sector. It is an enormous government endeavor. He is a government contractor for SpaceX. Tesla's in the same situation. It got an interest-free loan that put it ahead of its competitors just because of timing and the designs by other people. It's an absurdity for him to even complain about the Obama-Biden administration, because without them, we wouldn't even know who he is. Secondly, the fact that the Biden administration is moving ahead with making the government, the federal fleet of cars electric over the next 6 years has everything to do with what profitability Tesla was finding for so
sure.
The dude doesn't exist without giant government contracts, and he's angry that his giant government contracts, the money he's getting is going to be taxed at 15% like capital gains tax. And by the way, all of those companies, even with the baseline 15%, will be able to write off real R&D and other stuff like that. So they're not going to be paying a full 15%. They'll still find ways to get around it. But it's, the fact that the Biden administration did that is the chipping point. That's it. That's the only reason they want somebody like DeSantis, who they think is going to come in and turn America into Florida. And by the way, every cabinet member will be a Florida man. Every Supreme Court justice will be a Florida man. Where did you find this Supreme Court justice you're suggesting? Oh, he was eating cheesecake in his underwear in the middle of the Everglades in the middle of the night. He was, So those are the folks that DeSantis would bring to Washington. By the way, he's not getting elected. Sorry. You can't have Trump without the mythology of Trump, and that's exactly what DeSantis is trying to be. It doesn't work. But we got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the HouseSparks radio program, Megaworldwide. I stream 5 days a week. A couple days a week. So go to infotainmentwars.com or twitch.tv/HouseSparks. Become a member, support the show, and patreon.com. Thank you, patrons. We'll be back. Musk said in June he was leaning toward a DeSantis endorsement. The two men have exchanged a claim for one another.
That sounds like the Trump qualification.
Yeah.
He says nice things about me.
Right. By the way, when they were talking, did DeSantis congratulate him on the success of the Gigafactory in China? Please. Take U.S. government money to fund your organization, and then you build a giant factory in China, your primary factory. And by the way, anybody who wonders why he wants Russia to, people to go easy on Russia, is because Russia is his primary supplier of aluminum for Teslas. That's why. It's 100% why.
Nice.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
What was I doing?
It's true.
Me too.
Yes. So and yes, Philip Bittner is joining us in the second hour insofar as he can. We will do that. I will say this is the first time I've seen it written like in anywhere that's kind of official, I suppose, about it, that according to Bloomberg, Trump is obligated to make most social media posts on Truth Social as part of his contract with the SPAC that funded the Trump Media and Technology Group, TMTG, which is no surprise to anybody. but they pretend that he does it because it's really popular and it's really great. And the reality is that the minute he leaves and goes someplace else, the whole thing collapses. So they, of course, had to put him under contract to do it. And the same thing is true of like.
So he's contractually obligated to keep posting in that?
Yes, he has. Allegedly, there are exceptions in it for political postings once he runs for office. However, even then, it will just be his campaign can post, and he can, believe me, if he starts posting on his site and considers, what does he say that isn't political?
Yeah.
Please. Julie's asking, how are you familiar with Operator Starsky? Yes, I am. In the chat, he's great. He's one of the Ukraine military bloggers. He's a serving military guy that's over there. And I like his name stood out to me because of Starsky and Hutch, of course. Sure. The Starsky family.
And just a preemptive answer. Yes. Phil has heard of him and does not know him.
He knows, he's seen the actual like videos that he posts online. That said, now one of the things that the right wing is having a real problem with right now, it's difficult, is that darn economy keeps on moving right along. It just, every time they turn around, it won't die like they said it was. Remember, it was like gas prices are going to bring down the whole economy. Even Trump was saying before or slightly right after the midterm elections, the stock market's going to crash. He said it multiple times. You watch for it. It's bad the beginning of the year because of the war and because of oil and gas and all that shuffling around. Like, this is the worst first 3 months or first 5 months of a year and forever. Well, and then the bounce back was even better because, like I said, and folks in the chat room back me up on this. If you recall how many times I said that by Thanksgiving, stock market's going to hit, or the day after, stock market's going to hit 34,000, and that oil would be below $80 a barrel, and because of demand destruction in terms of oil, a large part due to lockdowns in China, but also because the Western world is moving away from that as fast as we can. The idea is consumer vehicles run on electricity, and then you can have trucks that run on diesel and the like. And one of our chatters was bringing up earlier that they've hit basically peak need for diesel at this point, and it's starting to arc off. And everywhere. And again, this is part of the world market for these things. And I said specifically this. I was like, and everybody, my chat on the regular show, my record is pretty solid. So a lot of them, were backing me on this. But I got a bunch of naysayers. Bunch of people were like, there is no way. And I was saying this back when oil was $110, $120 a barrel, because it was artificially inflated largely by actions of the Saudis. There is no reason for it. Sahaz saying, but gas is still up. It is in some places. It's coming down quite a bit. And a lot of that's refinery capacity. It's not the actual cost. It's the throughput, not the input. And the input was what was holding things artificially high for a very long time. So currently, I think somebody just posted it. The stock market today, right now, is 34,347. And oil is, wait for it, $76.28. Down 2%.
Wow.
Today, folks. And I got to tell you that is going to be the only thing that will buoy the price of oil over the next year or so is artificial market pressure put on by the people actually putting it out. Specifically the OPEC countries, specifically oil producing countries in the rest of the world. Countries like Venezuela trying to squeeze as much as they can by lowering production on purpose, or even through, I guess, economic inadequacy on their part. And then, of course, by OPEC just throttling the amount of oil going out just to keep the price artificially up. But the worth isn't there. It's dying on the vine, and largely because Western countries are moving consumer vehicles slowly but surely away from, if not complete electricity, to hybrids in mass. So the volume of, you have to think back, like the number of Priuses that came online years ago that were, are plug-in hybrids or gas electric hybrids. Understand that those cars over the course of their lifetime killed, hundreds of barrels of gasoline that those cars would have needed had they been designed in 1975 or 1985, and that's never coming back. So even people who are buying a used car are buying a car with better efficiency going forward, to the point where you're going to be able to buy a used Tesla with less range, but it doesn't matter, or a used Rivian or any of these other companies over the next 10 years that are 5 years old but are amazing. And that's going to be consistent. That is something that is never going to end. And that's the thing that oil producers are facing worldwide, including the United States, by the way. It benefits us over time because America's oil, dominance or our oil independence is largely about how much we use. The U.S. produces about 18 million barrels a day, but we use, depending on the time of the year, somewhere between 20 and 22 a day. If we can lower how much we produce or how much we use, then the production level over time will match our needs, and that's the game. We no longer need to rely on the world market for production.
Phil?
Yep, Phil's coming in. We see him in there. I've got to create a scene during the break. But this is...
Oh, I can do that. I can do it right now.
Create a scene? Not make a scene.
Look here, you MFers!
No, that doesn't work. Oh, suddenly you're...
all these Jewish people around here.
All right. No, you and I have a rule. No Bill O'Reilly impersonations.
Okay. We'll do it live.
Yes, right. But this is a consistent thing. And again, more than likely, one of the reasons why the stock market is up is because where are you going to put your Christmas money or your savings or your bonus if inflation has driven up the price of certain goods? Investing in, say, a new computer or something like that, when it's overpriced currently and the price might go down in the future because all technology is deflationary, versus waiting for that, putting your money into a stock which is artificially deflated by monetary circumstance in the United States, and watching it go up is a way smarter thing. So you've got tons of people who for Christmas are giving people Apple stock or Google stock or any of the FANG stocks and that kind of stuff, which is what's part of the boost that's happening. And they're going to ride it into the spring and look for a correction and all that stuff. And I've been talking about this since earlier this year.
Can you hear Phil breathing, by the way?
Yes, I do. And I'm just saying, at least we know he is. That's the important part. Yeah, that's the important part. No, it's not getting out on air, though. It's just between you and I. So,
it's just, darn it.
Yep. But what I'm saying is I'm thankful that what I have been saying has turned out to be true yet again. Because I get to enjoy my uninterrupted record, and I also get to remind people that I've been telling them the real story all this time. Now, coming up in the next hour, we're going to be talking a bunch about Ukraine. We're going to have questions taken from the chat for our dear friend Philip, who's wearing a scarf because it's chilly there. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Marks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. All right, now, let's see.
I will be right back. Muting.
Do what you got to do. I'm going to go to me, and then I've got to add some frameage in here. Pardon me for a second, Philip. I won't be able to hear you because I'm building a scene and putting you in it. So bear with me while we do that. Let's see. What's the easiest way to do it? I have an idea. Okay, hold on. Yeah, let's do this guy. First of all, add some audio. Add a browser. Here you go. Add that one. And then add me. 1 second. And just make this guy right here. And then we got to add, I have to add a whole other browser source for our dear friend Philip. So I will do that. Add a source. There we go. Add CPT so that we can hear them and hear what's going on. And then I will add another one, and that will include Philip. And then everything else is gravy once I do that. There we go. Philip Bittner, PI, like I like to call him. All right, then we go over here. Pardon me, chat room, while I'm building stuff on the fly. You get to watch me have a little bit of fun. B, there we go. There we go. And should be able to bring him in here like this. And then that should load in a second. Should be right. And then this guy, and then this guy, and then... Hey, I can hear you, Philip. There we go. Yes, hold on 1 second. And you can hear me, and so we're all good. And then I'll stretch this guy out. Are you keeping warm? All right. I mean, we're talking... Yep, we're talking to people in Chicago, so you understand how these folks are going to feel about it. Yeah. They know. They feel you, my friend. There we go. Move this. Whoops. Take this guy. Move him over. Move Johnny over. And the rest I can do on the fly. While I can build this while we're live. In 3, 2, 1, I'm going to bring it to us. Oh, hold on. Whoops. Hold on. Done. Hold on. Ta-da! There we go. Now you're up, and I think they could see you. And yay! And then there's audio in there, and I think his audio's good. There you go. And I think folks can see you. All good. And I'll turn this off, and I'll just add my graphic stuff after the fact because we're a big hodgepodge of pictures. But it's like an art piece. I don't mind. How are you in general, my dear friend? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Right. That is certainly true. That's the thing about war. It can almost certainly always be worse. Let's see. Add this to this guy. There we go. Just gotta